Welcome to the Leadership Heart Podcast with Sandra J. Horton, the Growth Catalyst.
Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Leadership Heart Podcast, the show where bold innovation meets conscious leadership. I am your host, Sandra J. Horton, and I believe that leadership is not about titles. It's about impact and intention and the courage to serve others. On this podcast, we go beyond strategy and surface level success to real and honest conversations with change makers in health and tech, innovation, social impact, personal development, and beyond. You are going to hear from visionary leaders who are building organizations that put people first, leaders who understand that in a world powered by technology, it's humanity that must lead the way. So if you are ready with purpose and clarity and heart, you are in the right place. So let's dive in and let's introduce our wonderful guest, Bertie Le Roux. Sorry, Bertie, I'm going to bring you up. Bertie Le Roux. There you are, Bertie. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful day today. It's wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we are coming live today, bright and early in the Pacific Coast at 7 a.m. and in South Africa on the tip. It is, I think, about 4 p.m., Bertie.
Yes, absolutely. 4 p.m. in the afternoon.
Wow. So I love the technology that we have. So let me do a bit of introduction to have this amazing man, this coach, this mentor to many. Bertie Le Roux is a true South African, born and bred. He began his journey in the early 70s with a BCom degree and teaching diploma. Love that. You transitioned to business and have an honors degree in business management. You are fueled by passion for diverse growth. I love that. That's really important to me and to the audience. For over 40 years, you have evolved from being not only a manager, which is amazing, but a transformative coach, a mentor, and a consultant. And you have been on so many beautiful stages. You've embraced challenges around the world, helping people to really understand how to move and to shift. You were an international and are an international speaker. Welcome, welcome everyone. If you're live with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, Bertie has been an international speaker in Mumbai in 2020 and is an active athlete at the age of 70. Well, do not look 70. And you're also in this beautiful process of penning your book. And it's called Vision with Imagination, a strategic guide on how to live your desired life. Wow, there's lots we could just unpack there, Bertie. You're inspiring others to live passionately and purposely, irrespective of life's challenges that may have occurred in your body and your mind. And you've been co-authored in 5 books. And last, the 3, you have an Amazon bestsellers with those books. And again, your own book will be Belief to Aki, a leader's journey from invisible to invincible. And again, welcome. Thank you, Bertie, for joining us. Thank you. Thank you. So as we jump in this morning, I would love to invite, let's open up. Let's have some fun today, shall we? I would like to know, what is one little unknown fact about yourself that you would like to share, just to kind of get us, listen up and everyone's like, oh, that's really interesting. What's one little known fact and experience maybe that people don't know that you like to share with the beautiful global audience today?
Gee, was you putting me on the spot there?
I'll share my little unknown fact. My nickname was called Spear Chucker because I used to throw the javelin. I was a provincial javelin champion. That's my little known fact that I don't normally share on my Leadership Art podcast.
Yes, maybe I can then, because you are mentioning that, I can mention my nickname that I got from at the university. Because I had, I had much more hair than now, and I I just combed it with a towel, basically. So I had it's not an afro as they call it. It was
Yeah.
almost in Xhosa, it's vugu vugu head. I was nicknamed Witmorf, meaning it's like a sheep.
Oh
Um,
my gosh. So you had a lot of beautiful hair. I love that.
yeah,
And did that
that's it. But
transform your experience of life? Like, that's the interesting piece. How people call us, what things come at us, does inform us as we look at life. So, what early experience, Bertie, maybe from that experience, really did shape you to become that leader today?
we're talking about we're starting off by the nicknames. My
Yeah.
first year in teaching, I actually taught in Umtata High School, which is one of the areas on the east coast of South Africa, mainly an area for the Xhosa. And I got a nickname Madefu, and Madefu means the man with a red beard. The red beard. So in the African language and culture, even when you're born, I'll never forget to give myself, because when my son was born, I had two children, a daughter and then a son, Ewald, born in a smaller town here in just north of Pretoria, South Africa.
Mhm.
The cleaner was looking at my face, and she gave my son a name, an African name, and I couldn't remember it. But it is so powerful to have those associations that go with you. It's almost like
Mhm.
reading the stars and reading your cards and getting this idea of who you are. Because
Mhm.
we are born uniquely and gifted by our God, and then entrusted to take those gifts into the world and
Mhm.
make a difference.
Yes.
The only sad part of it is that what we find, and that is where the invisible to invincible come. People never find their gifts, so
Mm.
they conform. So rather than stand out in the crowd as they were born and gifted, they just
Mhm.
end up fitting in. And it's our roles as coaches and mentors to help people to become what they truly were born to be.
Wow.
That's our role. And that's my passion that I've been living, not just since my 60s, but actually since I entered into the world, helping others become what they are supposed to be, born to be.
Wow. That's so powerful, Bertie. Thank you for starting off this podcast with such depth and beauty. Those words are so powerful. The question then, which the curiosity I have is, it's almost like we get in our own way. We're born these beautiful young little people. We have this, ideas and generosity and curiosity, and then some life happens, and then for some, we can lose the light, others continue on their way, maybe have less circumstances. For as we develop, what have you found helpful, to help people awaken that light within, to bring that inner child, to allow them to kind of come back and see themselves that maybe perhaps they've suppressed or they haven't really seen, in order to really step into their leadership today? I want to go there.
The key word here is awareness.
Hmm.
And that's very much part of my life currently. But the awareness of why you do what you do the way you do it.
Hmm.
Now, as a young boy, I was a late developer, so I always was challenged in order to just fit into the teams or making the teams, because I was the smallest all the time in my class and everywhere. But I want to tell the story about when I reached about the age of 50, 55. There somewhere. It just dawned on me one day, and the awareness struck me that I am still at this age trying to find my dad's approval. That I'm
Mm.
living a life according to what I thought would carry his favor. Okay.
Mhm.
And that is part of the problem that many of us have, is that we are not living our own authentic life. We live a life according to other people or the community or the culture or whatever, which is not
Mhm.
necessarily wrong, but if it takes over our lives so that it boxes us in,
Mhm.
we end up living not our life. I don't know whose
Yeah.
life we're living. We are just living our life inside this box. Who
Mhm.
put the box over us, or who sort of beckoned us into the box? I don't know. But we end up there in that box. And we're not growing, we're not developing, not becoming ourselves. And
Yes.
we owe it to ourselves to
Yes.
be.
Yes. I agree, Bertie. I want to jump in on that because, it's interesting in observation as we, reflect on our own age. And thank you for being vulnerable in sharing that personal story. I think storytelling and sharing authentically and openly is so critical for people to understand who you are. Who am I? One of the things that I have a greatest curiosity, because a lot of parts of us are hidden, aren't they? Like those are the parts maybe we suppressed. We're living someone else's values, our parents' valued culturally. In order to fully become present and authentic with that inner self, what do you suggest for leaders today to go inside to unlock those parts? Like, what have you found successful in the great work, the transformative work you've been doing with leaders around the globe? Because you have a global audience. How do you help
So
people go inside?
what I actually do is I became a whole brain practitioner to help people to understand who they are. I'm back to the term, why do you do what you do the way you do it? Because you are
Mhm.
actually born that way. So this is Dr. Quibbert's Neething's material, the whole brain thinking preference profiling, which
Mhm.
when I meet up with people that I coach or people that need some help, and they're struggling, then I would ask them whether I can do their profile so that I can show them who they really are. Because the fact of the matter is, we live a life outside of the mirror. We see other people, so we see perfection in others, and that's part of our problem.
Mhm.
Then we start living a life trying to emulate others, which we saw as elements in their lives as being perfect. So we built that, and the only perfect person that I know is my God. Nobody else is perfect. But the fact of the matter is, until we help people and say to them, just look in the mirror for once, and you see how many perfections is in you. Don't look for it elsewhere. Just live your authentic life based on your perfections. And once you get there, everything else changes. Because we
Yes.
start saying, I didn't know I'm that good, or I didn't know XYZ about myself. Because I was looking at others and I want to be like them because I thought that's happiness, that's success, that's that's joy and pleasure. So no. You got it
Yeah.
wrong, my friend. There's
Yes.
there's a lot of people with big fat masks all over them. And
Yes.
they have got a couple of them, and others have got a couple of hats. They just switch all along in terms of their lives. And you, by accident, meet up with them and you see a one side of them, but it's everything but.
Yes, yes. I love that. It's like you're just changing your hat. And it's interesting, personal story. When I had that moment, and this is critical, Bertie, because this is all about self-discovery. And in the book that I wrote as well, like part of my Activate Success framework is self-discovery is the first pillar. And within that self-discovery, it's going deep in to understand the values. Now, as a leader, if we're not clear on our own personal values, maybe again, like you said, they're anchored in around from your childhood, from your family, you really can have some challenges in your own leadership and adopting and looking to have that openness to see other people's perspective. So I want to shift a little bit. So when you see these leaders and they're struggling perhaps to go within to really understand themselves, especially in this fast-paced tech world, what do you do to like kind of pattern interrupt or get them to wake up? Like, what have you found to be successful to help people just do this work, to wake up, to stop, to kind of look at things differently?
As coaches, we are taught and we develop 101 plus questions.
Yes.
And I mean, as when we grow up and with my grandchildren now, one get tired of answering the question when I ask the why. But we need to teach it to ourselves, to ask the question why for ourselves. Because at the end of the day, the answer there. You don't know what you do know, and you often don't know what you don't know. So it's important that we get to sit with those kind of people and just ask the questions, let them talk. Let them talk because they've got the answers. Most of the time, everybody has got the answers to their own problems because they've lived the life up to the point where they defined it as a problem. So they created it. So if you have created that, why can't you fix it? If you know what you've created, you can fix it. So we just simply have to help them to understand that, to get to the point where they can ask the same question. And we can then help them to understand that the uniqueness and the authenticity that they got to bring into their lives. Not the perfections, just me. Be me. Nobody else. And then
I love
we
that.
can get that right. And the people can start talking and can relate from themselves. And they can say, I can't run the 100-meter sprint in 10 seconds, but I'm happy with 13 seconds.
Yeah. And it's interesting, Bertie, too, that when we reflect on that, I the work that we both do, working with, individuals and organizations, it's interesting. It's almost like a mishap has to happen within an organization or a learning environment, that awakening is, maybe it's a team conflict. I've seen it, different personalities start to clash. There's something that triggers or opens up the opportunity for growth. Now, in this rapid changing world with the pressure now to, change the systems, adapt a lot quicker, there's a lot of mistakes that are happening. And this is where I want to kind of shift a little bit about understanding yourself in that change, but how do we help our teams to go through this change when there's some real challenges that are happening? So what is the greatest, let's start here. What do you see is the greatest challenges right now that many leaders are facing?
I almost want to start by saying the lack of examples. There's the lack of an idol out there that you can try to emulate. So and to follow that is that. So we struggle. If you take 100 books about leadership, you probably find there's thousands of books about leadership telling you what you would do. But we have to take cognizance of so many things, cultures, age, and I can go on forever. So it's really is that problem, and we back to the start. Back to the start, and part of what I find people struggling with up to date is that they don't really have a clear picture. The chat that we had, the leadership program that we were on, and I started off and I asked people and saying, if you have one wish, if I grant you one wish, what would that be? My experience is people they don't have an answer. They simply don't have an answer. Because we don't know really what we want. We know what we don't want. We know what we don't like. But if you say, okay, fine, you don't like that, what do you like? No, I don't know. That's the problem. Because we don't have the picture going forward. We don't have that vision where we are moving.
Yes.
And if we have that clarity, and I had that first talk in Mumbai, vision with imagination, helping companies, helping individuals, creating a vision with imagination. And they say, but that's imagination. I'm saying, if you can create that, my friend, it was in your subconscious mind all the time. If you can speak it and say it, your subconscious mind already made a decision and say, Bertie, what you are saying, you can actually do, you can achieve. So create that vision. And if that vision is clear enough, or say, put it this way, the clearer it gets, the easier it is to start living your future in the here and now. Because if we don't know where we want to go, the problem is, how do we actually start and which direction do we move if we don't know? So often that means we're stuck. We're stuck because we can't have that. And sometimes I'm a little bit naughty, and I would, in a conversation about the subject, push somebody. And then they, let them lose their balance.
Yeah.
And you see their face. I'm saying, see, all you needed for a different emotion was to have to take a step. In this case, just to balance yourself, otherwise you would have fallen over. But I helped you to get some movement, some action. But we stuck. We're stuck because we don't know where we should go.
Yeah, no, it's really powerful what you're sharing, Bertie, because I think that's the truth. Just, again, this is a ponderance I would ask the audience to look at your own life. How have you been able to shift your state so that you can look at things in a different perspective? For myself, I have found that is the greatest gift, is to learn how to shift it, to, stop and breathe, reflect, and then choose a different direction, choose to see the good in things versus the bad. Like what you were just saying earlier, it's people are very fixated. They know what they don't want, but they're not clear on what they do want. So in leadership,
Absolutely.
like personally and professionally, to get that clarity, what do you do, or how can you suggest like tips or tools, strategies for leaders in a team setting to help their teams come together? Because I know you do this great work to really start to move forward, right? We've been talking about the individual change. What about team change? What can a leader do today to help the team get that clarity and start to move forward together?
What the word that comes to mind is trust. And I can only trust somebody if I know them. So that brings me to relationships. So often we are teamed up in a boardroom or in an organizational board, and everybody has got a label: financial manager, ops manager, marketing manager, HR manager. We've got a title, and the title defines what we are. It doesn't define who we are and why we are. And so for a leader to be really effective and build strong relationships so that we can pull the ship together, is if we just understand one another. I need to understand my team's strengths and weaknesses. And often the weaknesses is overpowering. And I'm just saying, let's rather replace the word weakness with what I don't like doing. Because if you understand each of your team member, what they love doing, you've got a powerhouse. You've got a powerhouse because it makes life so simple. If you know your financial director, which is whatever qualification he carries, and the responsibility that he carries, if you understand that and know that, then if there's a crisis and you need to ask one question about finances that you need now an answer, and you know that your financial guy is that powerhouse, you go to him and you ask him a question, you get the answer, and you can apply. If you sit in your boardroom, and that's where the vision with imagination comes from. I was always troubled with the strategic exercises based on the SWOT analysis. We know that strength,
Yep.
weakness, opportunities, and threats. And I was always saying it's a picture, like a balance sheet of the situation now. It's got giving me no idea of the future. But we create a vision, we create a new mission. And it takes us a couple of days to get everybody to buy into this vision and mission based on now. But where's the company going? Where's the company going? If the company had a different vision, then it will change your life. So what I say to the people, okay, fine. We all got sacred cows. So I'm the HR manager. Nobody around this table to say anything about people in this organization. It's my area of responsibility. Same with finance and marketing, whatever. In the meantime, the HR guy sits here and he says, I know more about production, my friend, than you. Because the problems in production comes to my office because it's a people problem.
Yeah.
Okay. But now enough said about that. Then in terms of the vision with imagination, I say, fine, let's now create a vision for this organization. I want everybody here to visualize himself into space, weightless, no sacred cows, everybody equals. If you can say about anything, about everything. And I say, then we look from space at the globe, Earth, we look at our continent, we look at our country, we look at our municipality or state, and we go right down to our office, but have a view from big picture. Not bottom up, because bottom up means I'm limited to my horizon, SWOT analysis. Okay. Yeah. If that answers your questions or that elaborate on your question, but that's how I feel. And then I can help the leader. Because the moment the leader knows the strengths of his team members, he knows which button to press. And everybody is respected and trusted for being the professional they are, doing what they love.
Yeah, I love that, Bertie. You know, I'm just going to jump in there because I think the power of what you just expressed is the work of being able to take people out of just their own first person perspective. You're moving everyone to, we're all neutral. You're moving the ego basically and saying, hey, we're all equal. Let's go up here and look at things from a systems or a larger perspective, remove the roles, and then let's see what can we co-create. And that to me is a powerful place because it gives people that visibility, right? Because I know you move people from invisible, 7 a.m., sorry, my apologies, invisible to invincible. So that's to be seen. That's like, I'm here knowing who I am. I want to participate and co-create with you. This gives them that opportunity to really shift and try new things, to get out of the old box, if I would. And I think that's really powerful. So in doing that great work with these organizations, how do you help leaders to stay grounded? Like you talked about this earlier, and I think this is a critical piece, to be in the present moment. We got to be grounded. We have to be like in this moment. How do we help people? How do we help leaders in those moments to really be active? To actively listen, to be grounded?
It is, the times that we live in, it's become more and more challenging. Mm-hmm. But once again, leaders doesn't have to be perfect. And we need to forget about the fact that we need to be perfect. People are looking for authenticity. They're looking for you being the same today that you've been yesterday, and we can expect you to be the same tomorrow. But if I have to phone your assistant and saying, just tell me what is Bertie's mood today, because I need to I've got some pressing thing to discuss with Bertie, but I need to know, because if you find Bertie at his weakest and his mood, bad mood, you can come with the greatest idea, concept, or whatever, and Bertie's not going to listen. He's in his emotive state of imbalance. Okay, and that's all people really expect from a good leader. We don't need you to be perfect. We just need you to be somebody that we can respect because we know you're authentic. We know we can trust you. Your whatever you said in the morning still count in the afternoon. And the problem is, if that's not the case, people will sit, and I'm guilty. One of those. You sit in boardrooms, and the CEO will stand up and make certain discussions and statements and proposals, and you sit there saying, I don't really agree with him, but the past has told me you can't argue with him. He's made up his mind. The way he's
Right.
talking to me, he's made up his mind. So whatever we say, we just have to say yes. So in the end of the day, he's got a bunch of yes men around him or her, and it doesn't add value to the organization. It value to him. He still feels good. He goes home and says, see, I thought this through, and everybody bought into my suggestion. No, we did not.
Yeah.
We are just saying, just let it go, because it doesn't matter what we say. He's made up his mind.
Yeah, it's interesting too, and you know, it's what I'm going to reflect on in this moment and to continue the conversation, because I can't believe it's already 7:31 already. It's really interesting that what you're sharing, it's still consistent over time. We have to stop and look at ourselves. We need to understand how we're showing up. We need to get clear as what you've shared consistently, and the word consistently and consistency is critical for leadership, so that people know what they see, what they hear, and what they feel is consistent, that leader is open. So for our next generation, and I want to kind of dive into this, because we were talking before we went on live today about the importance of cultural differences and really understanding these different perspectives. I think this is more critical than at any time, really, is how can we embrace the different generations, the youth? What kind of legacy can we leave for that next generation that's coming up? So what would you suggest, Bertie, with all your wise experience working with different groups and different cultures, that we can think about, we can bring into our own leadership today to leave a better, greater legacy or impact?
Thanks
Maybe
once
I'll
again.
reframe that.
Yeah. Thanks very much for the compliments. I do appreciate that. It's said a lot nowadays. We've got to listen more. We've got to listen more. If we listen more, we would understand and value the differences. Because if we don't, we respond from our experience. And as a 70-year-old talking to a 21-year-old is an enormous big difference. And how do I know what is the point of departure that led to this question or the statement or this request if I don't allow the person to express them, give them the time to understand that? And that's so important. I've mixed with a lot of young kids in Netherlands, where my daughter now stays, university level students and whatever. And they more than once spoke to me and said that we appreciate your wisdom so much. Because it's not what the university taught me, it's what the University of Life taught me. And we need to put more value to the education we get from the University of Life. Mm-hmm. So if you ask me that, I can go on for a long time, but I'm just saying, let's just listen more. And we listen and we read between the lines, and then we respond. But we allow the space. We allow the space for people to talk, to share what they've got in their mind. But because if we don't do that, they end up just shutting up. The value that comes from there. Because, we're talking about culture. Yes, the culture is completely different. Whether I'm in Africa, whether I'm in Canada, whether I'm in the Netherlands, it is totally different. People say the same thing and think about the same thing differently. Are they wrong? No, they never. No, I need to understand what's the point of departure. then I can judge if I so wish. But that simple thing. Let's listen more.
Wow. I
Speak
love
to
that.
us.
And it is really it's a powerful place to be when you evoke that observer, like you're actively listening. You know, one of the lessons that I learned early on is passive listening is when I'm thinking in my brain, oh, how do I want to respond? How do I want to respond? It's like, no, true active listening, because there's this difference, is open channels. Like I'm completely leaning in, listening for what you're sharing. And I think for me, the question always comes back to, so how do we, it's the how do we as leaders build this community so that the younger generations, that our impact is even greater? Because if we're not actively listening, like you're saying, meeting people where they're going to be at, like wherever they are, how do we build that community? That's the question.
That is the question. But you know, it is so often as an older person, you say to yourself, I don't want those people to reinvent the wheel. I don't want them to get hurt. I don't want them to make mistakes. But we started out by talking about mistakes, things that is not right. How do we learn, really? We got to do things in our own way, and that is what we need today is innovation, to do things that used to be done this way in a different way, because we expand, we want to grow, and that's that we need to allow. But it's difficult. It's sometimes so difficult because we're all in a hurry. We just want to get this over and done with. Here's the answer. Not let me sit back. You know, many years back, I was in a corporate institution, and we had creativity as a theme, and people was right through organization were allowed to come with suggestions, and then they pitch those suggestions to us as the management team.
Yeah.
And when people leave, some of my colleagues will say, Bertie, why do you ask these stupid questions? You know the answer. I say, no, I know the answer. But he or she really wants to give me that answer. How much they ask them the question? How did they get there? Because that's part of their presentation. That's part of their feeling good, part of them wanting to do more. Me asking the stupid question. For me, it wasn't a stupid question. It was a question to build that individual up, because it's not about me. It's about that individual.
Woo,
So,
goosebumps.
it is so often we do these kind of things, and sometimes maybe we just must play down that we have been around for so long and we have the answers.
Oh my gosh. You know what? Such great insight and true wisdom. And that's the piece. I come back to what's been consistent. And I know we're running out of time, but the consistent theme, what I'm picking up from this wonderful podcast episode with Bertie Le Roux, all the way from the beautiful tip in South Africa, is that consistency, the openness, the vulnerability. I know we don't have time to talk about vulnerability. We will come back and do another episode on vulnerability. But as a leader, is the openness really, right, to embrace these different perspectives. So I'm going to ask maybe one or two more questions, Bertie, of you this afternoon at your time. What does leading with heart mean to you? Because to me, a lot of this is connecting to that heart. Like the leadership heart is about that, leading with heart. How do you define leading with heart, or how have you shown leadership with heart?
You know, you've asked. We started out. You asked me something nobody knows about me, but I think lots of people know me as being an extremely emotive person. I find it hard to even express my condolence when somebody passes away or have had some great loss. I would rather go and give that person a hug, because I feel that not let. I don't even want to call it a gesture. I just want to say that I am in what I am in this body of mine. Want to make certain that you understand. I feel the way you feel. I'm not you, but I feel the same. I can't express it. And if we talk about leadership from the heart, then I'm saying that to me is so it's often so important that you express yourself without having said a single word, that people understand that you're there for them. You know, as a sports player, I play team sports, for example, rugby, very popular game in South Africa, and often chosen to be the captain. And I say to the people, I don't want that responsibility, because the moment I have to think for everybody, I find it difficult to focus on my own game. But if I'm not the captain, I will lead by my example and motivate and inspire the team, which I did. They wanted me to express their thanks for that by making me captain. I don't want that. I don't want a title. I'm back to the concept of why I am and who am I, rather than what I am, because what I am is situational.
Mm-hmm.
It carries no weight. It's an excuse. Okay, I'd rather want to live my life according to who I am, and people must understand that. Um, Difficult question, challenging answer.
But a beautiful answer, and I feel you. I feel just how you show up, and the passion and the enthusiasm, because we experience people, don't we? And what I'm taking from this beautiful share is, being present and really embracing and letting people feel you. And we do make an impact. And whether we are speaking or our physical bodies, all of the nonverbal cues, people experience you every single day. So I want to have my audience experience you even more. Now, I know you're working on your great book. I know you're doing lots of speaking. So how can people learn a little bit more about you, Bertie, to experience your great learning, to connect with you for as a coach? Can you share with my beautiful audience what are some ways that they can connect with you?
I think the best way is to connect with me via LinkedIn. I'm also very active on Facebook, but everything is just bertieleroux.com. Just go on www.bertieleroux.com and link to me on LinkedIn and learn more about me, ask me questions and challenge me. I'd love to know more about you and your challenges. And I just love to connect. As you hear, I just love to share. So please come out there if you feel that you're invisible, or you just feel invisible and you believe. I can talk to you so that you can become invincible. It's like, if you allow me 15 more seconds, I want to say, but I'm
Yeah, of
actually
course.
sitting talking to you from a little town called Cape Agulhas. It's a town at the southernmost tip of Africa. And I was a co-host of a radio station, and the Tuesday mornings was my work-life balance hour. And I was
Yeah.
one day decided I'm not going to sit in front of them in my office. I'm going to talk to the listeners from the dunes. And I was sitting on the dune looking over the ocean, and it struck me that invisible is like being a little boat on this vast ocean, rudderless, nobody going to find you. That's how I personally often feel. And then I looked over my shoulder, I could see the lighthouse, the southernmost lighthouse in Africa. And I said, that's the symbol of invincibility. Established, doesn't matter what storm is hit and thrown towards this lighthouse, it's there to light the way and guide the ships around the southern tip of Africa. And that's what it was built for. And that's what we should be, the beaming light from the invincible lighthouse.
Wow. Woo. I got goosebumps. Beautiful and powerful. Thank you, Bertie. You are a beautiful soul who's doing amazing work, transformational work with individuals and teams and organizations around the globe. So I thank you so much for being on the Leadership Heart podcast. Our next episode, we will be bringing some beautiful other speakers. But Bertie, I do want to have you back because there's just so much we can unpack, so many other layers that I know we share in our passion to truly help support individuals to transform, to awaken their heart, to be who they are, to identify, as Bertie said earlier on, who am I? Have that clarity, have that direction, and be that consistent leader that always shows up, that builds the trust, that connects from their heart to do great work, to transform, to build that legacy, that connection, that community around not only within your team, the organization, and a larger community. So from the Leadership Heart podcast, I want to thank you so much for being here today, for spending the time that you have. And as always, I ask you, what is one thing that you can take away today and apply in your life? There were so many golden nuggets that were shared today from an authentic heart. Really, truly, the opportunity is to move from being invisible to invincible. That is a challenge. That's the opportunity. That's the growth. Love to hear from you. Connect with myself on Facebook, on LinkedIn, across all the beautiful platforms. Thank you again, Bertie, for this opportunity. I will talk to you on the other side. Bye for now, everyone. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Honored to be here.